Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
Bandwidth for Triangulation is brought to you by Cashfly at CACHEFLY.com.
This is Triangulation, episode 176, recorded November 17th, 2014. Gareth Cook and the best American infographics of 2014. Triangulation is brought to you by FreshBooks, the #1 cloud accounting solution that helps millions of entrepreneurs and small business owners save time billing and get paid faster. Try it free at getfreshbooks.com/triangulation and join over 5 million users running their business hassle-free. And by Prosper. Prosper is a peer-to-peer lending marketplace that connects people who are looking to borrow money with those who have money to lend. Visit prosper.com/twit and receive a $50 Visa prepaid card when you get a loan. And by NatureBox. NatureBox ships great-tasting snacks right to your door. Start snacking smarter with wholesome, delicious treats like agave citrus granola. To get your complimentary NatureBox sampler, visit naturebox.com/twit. That's naturebox.com/twit. It's time for Triangulation. That's the show where we get together with some of the most interesting, most intelligent, most provocative people on the net and talk with them about what they're up to. And I'm thrilled to talk about infographics today. Gareth Cook is the author of a new book called The Best American Infographics 2014. Gareth is a science writer. He was at the Boston Globe and their science reporter for 7 years, also served as editor on the City Desk. So he's an actual real-life reporter. Won a Pulitzer Prize for explaining the ethics and science of stem cell research. Welcome, Gareth. Did you use an infographic for that?
We actually did use infographics for that.
Yeah.
That's one of the reasons I became interested in infographics, because the topic was very difficult to explain. And so in words, but often there are things that you can explain with a picture much better than words. And so that was actually an important part of that whole project.
Nate Silver of 538 does the forward in this. We all love Nate. And he points out that one of the earliest infographics is actually in, believe it or not, the Baseball Hall of Fame in Cooperstown, New York. And it was created by the splendid Splinter himself. As a Bostonian, obviously, you're a fan of Ted Williams. He actually made this with baseballs, and he showed what he could expect as a batting percentage depending on where the pitcher hit the strike zone. So
no, it's beautiful.
That's really remarkable that he even thought it this way.
Yep.
I love it that you start the book with that. That's so great.
I think some people are just naturally visual thinkers. I would argue actually all of us are visual thinkers to an extent. When you see something like that, you just immediately see the pattern. You can see a number of patterns looking at that, and it just sort of leaps out at you.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the appeals of this whole field, is the way that infographics speak to you in a very direct, visceral way. I also love how he just put that together with objects. It's not digital at all.
No, it's actual baseballs.
Yeah.
It's pretty amazing. Infographics have maybe received a little bit of a bad name of late because it's also become a great form of clickbait. You won't believe the 7 reasons why dwarves beat trolls every time, and then an infographic. Click. Yeah.
Right.
So
I often tell people I think we're living in a golden age of terrible infographics.
I love it.
It's just I think that once people saw their power and how appealing they are, they saw an easy way of getting people's attention, and there's just a lot of garbage out there.
Did this all begin with Edward Tufte? He was at Yale. It still goes around
absolutely
teaching people how to make great graphics. And I remember he has this incredible infographic of Napoleon's march on Moscow.
Yeah.
You've seen it, I'm sure.
Yes. Yeah, it's beautiful.
That must have been one of the earliest infographics. I mean, this goes back quite a way, I think.
It does, though. I mean, if you think more broadly about what an infographic is, it goes back even further than that. I mean, for example, there's something we all take for granted, which is a line chart. Yeah, I mean, a line graph where you just have, say, temperature over time. And that's something that didn't exist until it was invented. Yeah, there's
it
the
is.
Boolean.
Yeah.
And that's what's happening here. You can sort of see, you start off at the left, and the width is the size of the army. And it goes to defeat Moscow, and the army is defeated by winter and comes straggling back. That's what that black line is.
Wow.
So
and there's not many
Russia
left at
plus
the end.
the Russian winter, undefeatable.
A lesson, if Hitler had seen this infographic, he might have learned.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, but this is like a line graph, and I could see. So you could see it's good to show that because you can see the genesis from line graph to this.
Exactly. But that was actually a very radical step. Just even like the same guy invented the pie chart. So we look at a pie chart today, and it looks obvious. Of course, that's a way to represent information, and it's used in lots of bad infographics. It's just something we see all the time. But no one had thought to do that before, and it's kind of a huge step to think of representing information in a visual form. And so before that, you just had these huge columns of numbers, and it was very hard to see patterns or see any kind of meaning in them. Whereas if you look at something like that map, you get this sense of the drama underneath all the data. You sort of see how large the army was, how there's that first branch where part of the army turns back and they arrive at Moscow and then just come back just a sliver of what they were before.
It's truly dramatic when you understand what you're looking at. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. Actually, the cover of the, and by the way, this is a great book. Everybody, I don't care if you're interested in the display and dissemination of information. This is a great book just for browsing because, well, there's so much interesting stuff in here and presented in such an interesting way. But what you might not know when you first look at it is the cover is an infographic.
Exactly. Yeah.
Tell me about that.
So yeah, that's I love the cover. It was done by Carl de Torres. I don't know, you may know his name. He's sort of responsible for the look of Wired. So he was one of their early designers.
Doesn't it look like a Wired cover? Yeah.
Yeah, it just has that feel to it. And what he wanted to do was create a cover that actually was an infographic. So I have a group of people working on this project with me, sort of a informal brain trust of designers and other people in the field. And so what he did is he sent all of them an email basically saying, infographics have the power to, and then he asked them to fill in as many words as they could think of that they felt completed that sentence.
And then these are the words.
And those are the words. It's going to be a little hard for people to see on the screen, but those are the words. And the gray ones are sort of negative, and the white ones are positive. And some of them, I think, actually flip over to the inside flap because they were so common.
I should
There you go.
that.
There you go. Look at that. So you can sort of get a sense for the conversation about infographics from the cover. And there's actually I had a really wonderful page designer on this project, and when you look sort of carefully, you'll see inside a number of sort of subtle infographic features, which are just sort of, it's just sort of fun. On the bottom, there's kind of a navigation.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And yeah. So that's an interesting point, which is that infographics, and maybe that's why it's so challenging to do good ones. It is a kind of a left brain meets right brain thing, isn't it?
Exactly, because it requires a number of different skills. I mean, that one you're holding right there, I think is wonderful because that gets at the central quality that really good infographics have, I think, which is simplicity. So these are just recipes. But I find when I'm cooking, I have to read the thing, and then I go, and then I read it, and I read, and it's just sort of
you go back and forth, ingredients,
exactly, go back and forth, and
it's
is it
hard.
2 tablespoons or 1?
Right.
And it's just very kind of frustrating.
All recipes should be written like this.
Exactly. It's just right there. So it has this real simplicity to it.
Ingredients are here in the bar, and then there's this kind of flow chart. For those who are listening, some of our, this is a show you really should watch on video, but for those of you listening, this is Chelsea's kale salad, and it shows the ingredients being in the process kind of as a workflow down the chart. And then there's the list down here. Visual recipes. Here's comfort polenta. And you can and this is one of the chief things about infographics, I think, is that you can grasp it with one look. You can kind of grasp the overview, the lay of the land.
Right, see the gist.
The gist, but then it draws you in, and a great infographic may draw you in for minutes or hours. I mean,
that's right.
Not
Right.
this one, probably.
This one, but say something on a more important topic, like Justin Bieber.
Yeah.
There you go.
Here we go.
See, you could spend hours. You could go deep on that. I mean, just look at the haircuts over time.
Haircuts alone.
Yeah.
It's over on the right here.
That's good for a few minutes right there.
So this is a funny. Who did this infographic? This is hysterical.
That's I think it's the National Post.
Yeah.
In front of me.
And they were. This was in July 2013, and the statement, which I take it comes from the National Post.
Yes.
The reason they created this, because you credit both the artists, but then you give them a chance to say, well, what the hell were we what were we thinking?
What were you thinking?
What were you thinking? It says this graphic came out of an editorial conversation based around the perception that Canadians were becoming somewhat embarrassed by the antics of Justin Bieber. We wanted to poll readers as to who they preferred, the 2009 or the 2013 Bieber, but in order that they might make this important decision based on all available facts, an information graphic was prepared. And you could, I mean, of course, you immediately grasp Bieber versus Bieber, but the detail, the minutia, the fine print, you could spend
So
days.
that's one of the, I mean, that's more seriously, that is one of the aspects of infographics that make them excellent, in a sort of the sense of layering, where you sort of get an immediate point, but you can also just sort of sit with it and follow some idea or go deeper in. And so if you find yourself increasingly interested by Justin Bieber as you look at this, you could spend quite a bit of time.
Yeah, the truth is, if this were an article, never would read it.
You would never read it.
Never would read it. But presented as it is here, I now know much more about the Bieber than I really ever want. I might be a believer. So, curse you, Gareth Cook. We're talking to Gareth Cook. He's the editor of a brand new book. This is great from, it looks like Mariner Press. I should know that, shouldn't I? It is available in bookstores everywhere, and it's called The Best American Infographics 2014. We'll talk more in just a moment with Gareth. How cool is that, huh? I'm a believer. Our show today brought to you by, we welcome them back, FreshBooks. You've heard us talk about FreshBooks before. Get a fresh start in 2015. Here it comes down the pipe with FreshBooks, the easiest way to invoice clients, organize expenses, and track your time. It's so often the case that those of us, I was a freelancer for years and years and years. And when a freelancer is responsible for doing their invoicing, their expenses, tracking their time, we do not such a great job. Let's face it. But FreshBooks is here to make it so much easier. Actually, it was Amber MacArthur that showed me FreshBooks for the first time, nice Canadian company, in 2004. And I started using them then for invoicing. But man, this is the kind of thing, I guarantee you, come April 15th, you're going to wish you'd been using FreshBooks. So start now so that April 15th, 2016, you could say, you'll grow your business faster. You know, on average, FreshBooks customers, here's a little infographic for you, double their revenue for the first 24 months they use it. You'll get paid faster because it's easier to do invoices and easier for your clients to pay. No more awkward phone calls or emails saying, you haven't paid, because these late payment reminders are automated. So you get paid faster and you don't have to worry about it. I was working in Canada and billing in Canadian dollars, but then I had clients in the U.S. billing in U.S. dollars. FreshBooks solves that with multi-currency support that makes it so easy. You can easily import expenses from your bank statements, record billable hours. They have mobile apps that make that very easy. Track your team's time with multiple rates. FreshBooks, it's #1 customer support team in the world, voted by their users. FreshBooks support rockstar help is free forever, and you get to speak to a real live human every single time. I got a quote, a customer testimonial from Anthony Taylor. He's a CEO and chief strategist at SME Strategy. He says, I'm loving FreshBooks right now. I've been tracking all my time, costing our projects to track my productivity. You know, if you're on your own, if you're a freelancer, if you've got a small business, this is a challenge. FreshBooks makes it easy. I want you to try it right now. Free for 30 days with no obligation. Get freshbooks.com/triangulation. And if you do me a favor when they ask you, how did you hear about us? There's a little form there. Please put in the word triangulation so they know. Start your 30-day free trial today. Get freshbooks.com/triangulation and use triangulation when they say, how did you hear about this? Well, I heard about it on Triangulation. Our guest, Gareth Cook, is the editor of the Best American Infographics for 2014. This is not, is this the first one? It feels like there have been others.
So this is the second
Yeah.
year we've been doing this.
Yeah.
Last time it was we had an introduction from David Byrne of the Talking Heads, which made me very happy.
You know, okay, now this is a complete sidetrack, but I'm reading his book, How Music Works, right now. Have you read that yet?
I have not read it. I've heard it's quite good.
Now, he's from Providence. You went to Brown.
Yep.
Did you know him when he was at RISD?
I did not. I wish that I'd known him, but no.
Me neither. Did you ever go see him at CBGB's? Anything?
Total failure. Total failure.
No, the truth is, you got to read the book because it is not a memoir of Talking Heads or of his career, although he talks a lot about ideas he had and put into practice in his stage shows and in his recordings. But it's really about how music works. And I tell you, I've gotten more insight from the first 3 chapters than in years of listening to music. It's really good.
Well, there actually is a connection between that book and this book, which is that book is sort of one of the things that book is about is the way that different venues shape the kind of music that's played there. So an opera house is good for one kind of music, whereas CBGBs might be good for another kind of music. And so one of the things that's really interesting about infographics is it's a new medium. And so it's good at certain things and not good at other things. So like radio or television or writing, it has its own set of strengths and weaknesses. And he's very interested in new media and what they're good at and what they're not good at. He did this he did this book tour where he basically gave a PowerPoint presentation, sort of a satire for how bad PowerPoint was at delivering information.
That's one of the
so
things,
he's interested in this.
Yeah, it's one of the things he says in the book is, everybody thinks, well, anybody with a laptop can do a PowerPoint presentation. He says, no, it's a performance. It's as much as being a musician or a comedian. You're doing a performance, and you better remember that if you're going to do a good one.
Right. Exactly. Know your audience.
Know your audience.
Don't bore them to tears.
Yeah. I wish we could learn that. Here's one that's near and dear to my heart. Tom Brady versus Peyton Manning. Haircuts.
Back on haircuts again.
This is from Sports Illustrated. This actually tells you, this is an example of an infographic that tells you absolutely nothing except the haircuts. It doesn't tie it to stats or anything. It tells you a little more than nothing. Does it? I'm going to disagree with you.
Okay. Look at Brady and look how much he's trying out and striving to achieve the perfect cut for the year. Whereas Peyton Manning's like, I'm a football player.
I don't have to have a haircut.
I play football. That's what I do.
You know, it's true. When you look at this, Brady looks nuts. Yeah. What the hell?
He has lots of aspirations.
But this is why you want to get this book, because it really, every page, I can't tell whether you should put it in the coffee table or the bathroom.
Well, a friend of mine said, Gareth, I didn't want to tell you this, but I put it in the bathroom. And I said, are you kidding me? That's the highest possible compliment, because that's where books go that are actually interesting.
I agree.
Books that you actually want to look at.
My first book was an almanac, and the reason I made it an almanac is because that belongs in the bathroom. The idea is you get enough in one page. Good, that's good. I'll see you tomorrow.
You can keep coming back.
It's more. It's better than short.
It's good for repeat customers.
It's good for repeat customers. When you greet a friend, this is fantastic because I've often wondered about this. How many times do you kiss? Now, I thought the French always kissed 3 times.
Yeah, but you have a lot to learn, you can see from this map.
Obviously, if you are in Corsica, you get ready to kiss 5 times.
Yeah,
those are that's bizarre, and I've noticed this, and I thought it was in different countries, but even within provinces of France.
Yeah,
or
it's also this map is beautifully done. The sort of the
gorgeous
pointillism,
Yeah, look at the little dots that give it a texture.
Yeah. Over on the left,
and if you zoom in, you see, and is this because each dot is data?
Exactly.
There were 100,000 responses on this survey. They've been doing it for 7 years. Most people in France greet you with 2 kisses, including more than 75% of Parisians. It changes a lot outside the capital. 1 in Brittany, because the people in Brittany are very stoic. 1 kiss, that's all you get. It's cold, the ocean's blowing, that's all you get. But as you go farther south, you're going to get more kisses. Yeah. 5 kisses is not common anywhere, it says, and these responses are probably noise. It's like, oh yeah, 5,
I like
6.
that because there's an element of this as like, P.S. This all might be a lie.
It's France. What do you want?
It's France.
This is from radicalcartography.net. Is that a website where they do this kind of thing?
It is, and it's excellent. He does really great work.
I think maps
He has another piece in there about it shows all the lands that were actually discovered by people. So, we say, when America was discovered by Columbus or whatever, but when Columbus came here, there were already people here. So you can't really give him credit for discovering America. Yeah. And if you sort of go around the world and look at all the lands that were actually discovered, that is, someone arrived there and there weren't already people there. It's not a lot of places. So it's kind of a funny look at the globe.
Simple infographic. Maps are infographics. In fact, one of the reasons I think we love maps is because you can stare at them and glean stuff. And then, of course, applying data to a map, as these guys do, is really interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that this field sort of has its roots in map making.
Probably,
that's sort of, and that's an awesome map you have there. That's a map of the United States, and they've changed all the labels so that instead of the proper name as we know it, they've given the name, they've translated the real meaning of it.
What? That's just bizarre. So the Gulf Stream is the world stream by the mountain of the mountains.
There you go.
Is this the Gulf of? Now I don't even know.
It's the United States of America. But if you look at some of the if you look at Vermont, you look over in the Northeast, you can sort of see some of the names.
Okay, Maine is the land of folks.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah. Green Mountain of New Hampshire. We know we know that. New enclosed farmshire is New Hampshire. Yep. New York is the New Yew Tree Village. Rhode Island, where you and I used to hang our hats, is Red Island. Is Massachusetts the land at the Little Big Hills?
I think it is. It's all true.
Hey,
why would they lie about a thing like that?
Why would they lie? Wow, California is the land of the successor. Yep. Texas is the new navel of the moon.
There are other terms, but it turns out they're not accurate.
Okay. Wow, this is good. This is from calamedia.de, the Atlas of True Names. What fun. I mean, this is just, here's the family tree of bourbon. Those of us who like to tipple a little brown liquor sometimes like to take a look at this. And, of course, there you go, right on the upper left-hand corner, little Pappy Van Winkle, one of the oldest from the Buffalo Trace. The corporate owner says, wait a minute, there's only a handful of corporate owners. That's depressing. Isn't this fun? That's
one of the interesting things about that is because each of these, labels gives it a very distinctive feel, but then you go back to the roots and you realize there's just a few companies now that own all of this.
Jack Daniels is owned by the same people who own Woodford Reserve. That's very disappointing.
Yep.
Very disappointing.
We can still enjoy the bourbons, though.
Yes, we can. Yes, we can. This is the Kings County Distillery Guide to Urban Moonshining, How to Make and Drink Whiskey. And they made this lovely map with a family tree in it and everything. Yep, we do see a lot of bad infographics. What makes a bad infographic?
I would say a bad infographic is confusing. You feel irritated when you look at it.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
A bad infographic is also an infographic that has been made for no particular reason. Sometimes bad infographics are made because people feel like infographics have some special quality, but they don't really have a plan for what they're doing.
Right.
Ultimately, infographics, like any other medium, are about telling a story. And so if the infographic doesn't have a coherent story that it's trying to tell, then it can be just very ineffective and bad.
The Guardian has a database, they did this a couple of years ago, of useless infographics. And just to compare the good stuff in this book with the bad stuff, here's one. How much will it hurt? This is a pain-o-meter that will say how much that tattoo is going to pain you.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. This is one you just want to look away from.
That's right.
Yeah.
It does not invite further exploration.
I don't think I want to go deeper. Frankly, this is just dumb. This is a line graph and a bar chart mixed together to produce meaningless information. Oh, I like that. Yeah. I don't even... Can you tell me what this is? I zoomed in too much. This is 76%, which actually is wrong. Now, this is an example of an infographic where the pie chart is just wrong.
So that's bad on a number of levels. I feel like they've hit multiple. It's like a multiple winner there for a bad infographic. First of all, 76%, you'd expect that normally to be a little more than 3/4.
Yeah,
it seems like they have a pie issue. But second of all, the pie does not really add much to the 76%.
Right.
You know, you don't really actually need the pie there.
No.
And as lovely as the buildings and the sheep, or those sheep are?
Sheep,
I'm not
cattle,
sure.
I don't know.
I'm not sure.
Horses without
really
tails.
Adds a lot too.
I don't know what those are.
You know how they could have made this worse, actually, is they could have animated the sheep or cattle or whatever those are. They could have an animation there.
You want to know who made this?
Who made this?
The World Bank.
Wow. Sometimes it takes a really large organization to do something spectacularly stupid.
That is truly...
Sometimes a small organization just doesn't have the weight to do something really dumb.
This is an infographic we actually have shown on the show to talk about the variety of Android phones there are out there. This is... So the size of the box is how many sold, and then, of course, each box is a different brand or different unit. That's completely worthless.
Yeah, I'm not sure it really comes together to make a bigger point.
Might make a good wall covering, though.
I do feel kind of dizzy when I look at it, though. That's kind of cool.
That's from Popular Science. But actually, I've used this infographic. So, you know, we are often on our shows we talk about technology, we talk about abstract topics. And one of the things that, and you see probably more infographics about technology than any other and science. And I imagine this is how you got into it as a science writer. Because these are difficult to understand.
Absolutely.
Stem cells, you know.
Yeah, so it's one of the powers that infographics have is to allow you to picture something, even if it's very abstract or you've never experienced it before, or if it's a huge scale or really tiny. And so when you're in technical fields or science, often these issues come up where it's very abstract and people have trouble thinking about it if it's not a concrete thing. And so I think that's one of the things infographics can do is they can make it concrete so you can literally picture something and you can wrap your head around it. And that is why I got into it in the first place, is doing science writing. It was just you realize what a powerful tool it is for explaining ideas to people.
Have tools like PowerPoint been good or bad for infographics?
So I think we'd have to say that ultimately it's been good, but when PowerPoint first came out, it was just badly misused, and I think people didn't really understand that it was its own media. And so what you'd find is people would have slides and they'd have pictures with it that didn't necessarily go with the slide, and then just lots of writing on it.
Right.
Whereas you want to think about, I mean, it's sort of like in the beginning of television, people really thought about it, didn't really think of it as being that different from radio. And it took a while for people to understand what was really powerful and different, and the different ways you could tell stories using television. And the same is true of infographics. I think people are just learning what it's capable of and getting better at not misusing it. But the other thing about infographics is that, and PowerPoint gets at this, is that it's very democratic. Anyone can make these now. Anyone has these tools. Anyone can do this. And so it means that it's very ripe for misuse in a sense, because no one has. You don't have to show your license as a designer to get the tools you need to make an infographic. But it does require some skill to do well.
Well, here's an example. I mean, anybody who has Play-Doh could make this infographic. I don't even know if I want to talk about this.
So, where did you? I'm just curious how you came across this.
I was doing some research.
Okay.
Okay,
Yep.
and this graph, which comes from a website called Poop, is Know Your Poop, and I think that's all we really need to say about that.
Well, it's funny you bring this up because there actually is a poop infographic in Best American Infographics.
Okay, let's compare.
So let's have a look.
The good one.
It's at the very. You'll not be surprised to hear that it's at the very end.
I'm sorry. I'm just showing that I have a completely infantile sense of humor here.
So it's the end of the third section is what you want.
It's in the third section. All right. We're gonna pause for a moment while see. This is the problem. Is I can't page through. Oh wow. I can't page through this book without. Oh wow.
About stopping.
About stopping. It's so full of great stuff. Great winged migrations, the size of Earth's
132.
surface. Page 1. All right. Thank you for the direction. I must have paged right by it without understanding.
Not to distract you.
Oh my God. Okay.
So this is the dueling poop version portion of the program.
Yeah. Well, this is a little scientific, a little more scientific. You can learn a lot about a species by what it leaves behind. It's the science of scatology. And actually, my father, who is a paleontologist, used to bring home fossilized poop. They called them coprolites.
Exactly.
And you could learn quite a bit about this. This is from National Geographic. They must be really good at infographics over there.
They are extremely good at infographics. They have another really beautiful one in this collection about migrating birds. But just that, I mean, just, even the poop one that's really quite.
Yeah.
Quite
well,
lovely.
they took a step beyond Play-Doh, I think. And, and
they started in the same place, but they took it up a notch, I'd say.
They took it up a notch.
There
as I'm paging, go ahead. What?
I was going to say that when you're
the
at the bird,
yeah, the
that
other
opens
national,
up.
Yeah, the Nat Geo. This is like a gate. This is like Playboy for nerds. Exactly. So perilous journeys. I can't get this all on the screen at once, but this is the migratory patterns of raptors and others, the hoopoe and the ortolan bunting. And wow, this is amazing. This is one where I'm sure this is meaningful to ornithologists and bird watchers, but I just like the pretty pictures. You do one on billionaires in here. Let me just. This is a fun one.
Yeah, so this is from the back section of the book. We have the top 10 interactive infographics.
Yeah, so that's something missing. You have to go to the website to really to get the value out of this. Yeah,
but that was a really nice piece of work where you could explore who the billionaires were and where they got their money and do all sorts of analytics with it.
Still online, Bloomberg.com/billionaires if you want to.
Yeah, that's from Bloomberg. They did really nice work with that.
So that's an interesting point. We're used to the idea that infographics are static, but increasingly publications like the New York Times and Bloomberg are using the internet to create beautifully interactive graphics.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's also become sort of a new form in and of itself, these sort of living charts that you can push around and explore on your own.
Yeah.
And it's pretty amazing what they're able to do now.
We're talking with the author of a great new book that I highly recommend, The Best American Infographics for 2014. Gareth Cook is here with us. It's from Mariner Books. You can get it online. And you could also visit Gareth at his website. I'm sure you have a link there, right? GarethCook.net. He's also on the Twitter, Gareth Ideas. Our show today brought to you by, speaking of billionaires, Prosper.com. Prosper is a very interesting Silicon Valley solution to something that nobody likes, the big bank loan. You need a loan? You need some money? Go in hat in hand to the bank. You fill out all the forms. You got to put on a suit and tie. It's no fun. Prosper is such a clever idea. It brings together It's a marketplace bringing together people with money to lend with people who want to borrow. And you can borrow up to $35,000 in as little as 5 days and use the money for just about anything you want, to pay off high-rate credit cards or fix up your house for the holidays, to start a business. This is a great way to do it. Their online marketplace produces essentially a friction-free market for people who want to borrow. And you can check your rate right now by going to the website, Prosper, prosper.com/twit, and filling out a very simple form. It will not affect your credit rating. They will give you a quote, a price. Prosper's loans are fixed rate, always unsecured, so there's no collateral required. I'm a big fan. For a limited time, you can get a loan at prosper.com/twit and a $50 Visa prepaid card when you get that loan. That's kind of nice. Prosper.com/twit, up to $35,000 in just 5 days, and a $50 Visa prepaid card. Prosper.com/twit. It's very easy. Take just a minute to get the quote. At least get the quote. See what it'll cost you to get up to $35,000. I don't think Bill Gates is looking for a. This is fun. You hover over their head, and you get their net worth. Ooh. Just clicking on Bill Gates' head makes me happy. Just doing that. But this brings home the idea that of any infographic that you want to drill down a little bit, and that's what makes them fun. I think is to say, oh, I got the idea, but really, tell me more. Who is this Cox Chambers everybody's talking about, and what's she up to? And they've done a nice job. This is a really great kind of entry into Bloomberg's own deep pool of information. That's why it makes a lot of sense for them. Then there's things where you just go, how did that work? Here's one. This is from the Washington Post. How you pick a pope. Illustration seems to be a big part of a lot of these.
Yeah, I think that part of what is good about this and why journalists have become so enthusiastic about this is it just allows you to, it takes you a place that you wouldn't normally get to go. Has almost a Dan Brown feel.
Yeah.
You're actually in there while they're making the choice.
Yeah.
And it's such an old tradition, and there's so much interest in it, and yet we know so little about it that I think that this infographic is just really effective at bringing together what we do know to give people a sense for what it might actually be like in there. You can sort of see there's just a lot of nice touches in that illustration. You can see the light coming in through the windows, for example. And there's a lot of sort of just fairly clear explanation for a somewhat complex process. And there's not really, without using pictures, it would be very difficult to convey all of that. And so illustrations have this sort of transporting quality, which I think can be very effective for telling certain kinds of stories.
This reminds me of, and MN7 in our chat room says the same thing, the beautiful Dorling Kindersley guidebooks, which are essentially guidebooks that are infographics.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's one of the reasons those have been so effective. It's sort of a different way of delivering information. We were talking about those recipes before. Mm-hmm. And it's the same sort of idea. Instead of giving people travel information in these blocks of text, give them something visual so they can picture it and think about whether that's a space they want to be in and explore. One
style of infographic that I'm not sure I'm crazy about, but you have an example in here on recording sessions, jazz musicians, is this kind of mind map style. Is there a name for this, the interconnecting lines and the...
Well, I don't have another name for it, but it's just, it sort of shows the network.
It's a network map, yeah.
I think that, it's the case that if you look at that, you can sort of get a sense for what the strong connections are. But I'll be honest with you. One of the appeals to me about this is just I thought it was just lovely. I really like the colors, and I just like the sort of feel of it. And it doesn't have huge ambitions in terms of the message it's trying to send, but I just thought it was very just nice.
So sometimes it can just be a pretty picture.
Sometimes it can be a pretty picture, and I wouldn't say just a pretty picture, but it is the case. I mean, we're aesthetic creatures, and we have aesthetic, needs. And that's part of what good infographics are about, is they sort of stimulate us, like going to an art museum is stimulating and makes you think in different ways.
And here's one that makes you think and maybe shake your fist. I don't know. Highest paid public employees, state by state. You want to make a good living? Well, if you're a law school dean, you're going to have to moon to Maine. But everywhere else, if you're a football coach, you got a pretty good shot.
Yeah, the highest paid public employee, the answer usually is football coach. I had a friend who said he looked at that map and his first response is that the Northeast needs to secede.
Maybe take Alaska with it. And
yeah,
oddly enough, in Nevada, plastic surgeon.
Plastic surgeon.
But Nevada only.
Right.
I'm trying to think
it does say something about our nation's values, that these are the most important employee in the state.
Yeah. Med school dean in North and South Dakota. That's nice. But there aren't very many people there. College president. I don't even know what that state is. I'm sure you do because you're a literate human being.
One thing that's important about this infographics is this is like an op-ed of an infographic.
This is not deep information here at all.
But I think that's actually, I mean, it's obvious in this case, but I think that's actually true of all infographics. They're all made by someone who has some kind of agenda, who is making some set of choices about what information they think you should have, what information you might want to try to answer a particular question, what even the question might be. So I think people are used to being critical readers. They know that when they're reading something, that the person who wrote it may have some particular agenda behind what they're doing. But the same, I think, is important for readers to know. The same is true about infographics, that when you look at an infographic, you do have to bring a critical mind to it and ask yourself, what is this really showing? Where does this information come from? Is it really making the argument that it seems to make?
Yeah, this is from Deadspin.com. And yeah, you could easily have said, in 43 out of the 50 states, the highest public employee is a football coach. But when you do it as a map like this, it's much more dramatic. And it is.
It's much more impact.
It's polemical, yeah. Wow, how force feeding works. So a lot of these are stimulated by stories in the news. This comes from hunger strikers in 2013 at Guantanamo. And we learned that they were being force fed. And, you might read that one line in the paper, but what does that really mean? Wow. And when you read this, again, I think this has a political statement, but
I think it is a political statement. It's asking you to be outraged by what was done. And I think that you can agree or disagree with that, but I think that it serves a real value in giving people a sense for what it actually means. When you hear force feeding, I don't think people know what it means. I certainly didn't really understand it until I looked at that. And if you look at that tube, which gives you a sense for how long the force feeding tube is, you get a very powerful sense for what this procedure actually means. And, you can argue that this is, putting something really in your face in a way, but I think you could also make the opposite argument about words sometimes, which is they sometimes hide the emotional power of something. I mean, if you say force feeding, it just sounds like, whatever, it's just some kind of procedure. But when you look at this, you get just a sense for what one human is doing to another human. That of course, doesn't answer the question about what the right policy is in this situation. It's just a very extreme situation. But it does make the whole thing much more visceral.
Information is power. And sometimes, I think you're right. I think words can sometimes hide. Waterboarding, this doesn't sound so bad.
Just there's a water, there's a board.
How bad could that be?
No big problem, yeah.
Our show today brought to you by Nature Box. Find snacks delivered. It's sea salt sun crunch, sunflower and sesame seed crackers, whole wheat raspberry figgy bars. These are all in resealable packages. This is instead of, for those of us who are hungry and do want to go down the hall around about this time of day and get something at the snack machine, this is so much better. And so many people now who've been watching our shows have been getting these Nature Boxes delivered. Nature Box is always nutritionist designed, nutritionist approved, no high fructose corn syrup, no trans fats. I'm just going to open this up. Oh, That is a taste of the islands right there. And there are hundreds of snacks to choose from. Now, I'm going to get you a free sample, so this will be the way to try it. Snacks delivered right to your door, $2 postage and handling, that's all. And once you try it, I think you're going to agree. They have snacks. You can say, I want vegan snacks. You could say, which this would obviously be. You could say gluten-free. You could, I mean, you get choices. You also spicy, sweet, or savory. But get the sampler. Or visit naturebox.com/twit and read more about all the great snacks that are in there. Delicious, wholesome, and wonderful. I am a big, big fan of NatureBox. Naturebox.com/twit. Our guest, Gareth Cook. Can you give me some of your favorites? Because I've given you many of my favorites already. And
well, we were talking about the bird one. That was one of my favorites.
I love that National Geographic. Here's American League Baseball part. I like the sports stuff because I'm a sports fan.
Well, there's a fastball one right at the beginning on page 16.
Yeah.
Which is sort of about the...
Look at that. Bring in the heat.
So that's sort of about the mechanics behind the fastball.
Oddly enough, this is from the Wall Street Journal.
Yep.
But
so
that
sort
is
of
great.
shows you, it kind of shows you, it's sort of what you'd get if a physicist analyzed a fastball. You know, what's happening while the ball is being released. It takes you through the whole wind-up, and it's actually, there's quite a lot involved in delivering a ball that fast.
And it answers some questions. For instance, if you think that maybe more pitchers are throwing more heat than before, here's a graph of pitchers who throw at least 25% of their fastballs from 96 miles an hour or faster by season. In 2003, it was down there in the 20s. Now it's 62. So clearly, the fastball has become an important part of a pitcher's repertoire in modern Major League Baseball. Then
there's another.
Go ahead.
I was going to say there's another interesting sports one. This is not baseball, but if you look on page 58, this is one of my favorites.
Are you going to do a third one of these, by the way?
Yeah, we're going to. It's an annual volume. So the idea is every year we're going to pick the best of the previous year.
Do you do it in a big meeting, like an editorial meeting, or how do you?
So it's kind of it's a process. So I have people sending me infographics all throughout the year, and then near the end of the year, I gather sort of my favorites, and I meet with a few people, and we sort of hash them out. And we're looking for infographics that we just like. We're also trying to put together a collection that gives people a sense for what happened over the last year. So it has a little bit of a yearbook quality. Mm-hmm. You mentioned a number of those have related to the news.
News-related, yeah.
Yeah, so we're just trying to give people a sense for that. We're also trying to give people a sense for just all the creativity out there. I mean, there's just so many different approaches that people are taking to infographics, and so many ideas people have about how to present information and how to reach readers and viewers in new ways. So we're just trying to give people a sense for that creativity out there.
Yeah, I love this idea. And just all that aside, it's just a great book to have and browse through. Yep. And you just want more. It's like NatureBox snacks. You just want more. This is Airstrikes. This obviously was during the World Cup when everybody was trying to make soccer more interesting. The beautiful game.
These are famous scores that happened without the ball touching the ground.
Oh, neat.
So you can follow each one of those colored lines and see how the play unfolded without exactly sort of.
Nice.
Right in.
Nice.
Goal.
Goal. Actually, this does,
Very dramatic.
What? This does bring it to life, that makes it really interesting.
You can see there's a bicycle kick there with the yellow line. Very dramatic.
Look at that.
Yep.
So, in fact, the yellow line, it goes here, he heads it, bicycle kicks it over his head backwards into the goal, directly into the goal. That's amazing. That is, boy, I'd love to see that one.
So this is something, this is another thing I like about this, is this really shows you just could not convey that with words. This is just not a story you can tell with words. You really have to see that. You have to see where everyone's standing. Soccer is a very spatial game.
Yeah, it is.
And this really captures that, I think.
This is great. Anyway, highly recommend it. The Best American Infographics for 2014. Nate Silver, who we love from 538. Now he's working, he went to some TV, what did he go to? ESPN?
He's with ESPN.
Yeah.
They're hosting his site now, too.
because he's kind of really all his stuff is sabermetrics applied to politics. So he's gone back really to the roots.
Well, he's very interested. He's sort of become part of this movement, and I guess you'd call it data journalism. People really looking deep in data, using statistics to tell stories, and that's another thing that's been driving the boom in infographics.
Yeah, and that probably has happened because of, you know, we've become an information society, right? And because of computers and technology, we kind of have fallen in love with data.
Yeah, well, I'd say there's two things that have happened. One, because we have computers and we have all this data, it's possible to make infographics, and that's been part of the interest. But I also feel like it's made them necessary, because all this computer power and all this new media and all this data is extremely overwhelming. So I think we're all very hungry for tools that allow us to make sense of the world, allow us to see the simple point behind this, you know, some cloud or storm of data. And that's what infographics do. If you get right down to it, they take a complex situation and let you see the essential parts of it.
Gareth is also the editor of Scientific American's really great Mind Matters blog, if you're into neuroscience, and fascinating, you know, insights into how the human mind works and doesn't work. Mind Matters is great, and you do a wonderful job with it. Have you been doing that for a while? Because that is just, I love that.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, I've been doing that for a few years now.
Lots of science in here, lots of sports, news. It's really fun to read, and Justin Bieber. Sorry, I just closed it on Justin. I closed the book on Justin. I'm sorry. The book is The Best American Infographics 2014, Gareth Cook. It's on bookshelves. Does anybody have a bookstore anymore? Go there and buy it. Keep those bookstores alive. Otherwise, you can get it from Gareth's site, garethcook.net, and, of course, Amazon and everywhere else. Thank you, Gareth. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks so much for having me. It was really great.
Always a pleasure. I'll send you some snacks.
Please do. I'm hungry.
Our show is done every Monday morning. It's the only excuse I have. It's Monday morning, early in the beginning of the day, and I'm just, my mind isn't fully functional. 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern Time, 1900 UTC on twit.tv. Please tune in and watch live if you can. It's always great to get the feedback from the chat room, but if not, of course, on-demand audio and video is always available after the fact. On our website, twit.tv/TRI. You can go to youtube.com/triangulation or subscribe. That way you'll get it every week. Use a podcatcher of your choice. They're on every mobile platform. We even have Twit apps on every mobile platform, thanks to our excellent independent developers. So get an app, download it, and listen every week, because you won't want to miss a single episode. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time on Triangulation.